What's up, guys? It's Sunday. Time to look at some stuff in crypto. I pulled up these links. I had this tab open since like last week. I wanted to go through some, points in these videos that people had said something interesting and just kind of like comment on them. So let's get into it.
Muzz talking about nothing is really happening in Bitcoin. He's obviously being ironic. And there's a great example here of all the stuff that's happening, especially on the Lightning Network. So I'm not going to go over this now, but you can see.
Okay, so this was a comment by, if you watched my last week's video, Trader University is a hardcore Bitcoin maxi. And I commented some stuff on how I don't really like the Bitcoin religion. And my analogy that I used is Bitcoin is a religion is because it gets the same kind of love as God gets, right? Hey, um, whatever went wrong in your life is your fault. Whatever goes good, it's God, right? So this is like kind of the thing I was talking about last week about Bitcoin has the same kind of religion aspects, like, characteristics where like, um, oh, all these coins are going bust. We told you, Bitcoin is the only one. Where the real fallacy in that reasoning is that just because XYZ is bad doesn't mean this one is automatically the chosen one. It just means that this XYZ is bad. That's it. Like next time, 5 years from now, maybe the synthetic coin that they experiment at that time with that current technology will work. Um, so that was that. And I'll just close these as we go through them. Okay, Ben.
Ideally what it would correspond to. Now you put it all together, the price risk, the on-chain risk, and the social risk, and you get the summary risk. Currently coming in at 0.131. History shows us that it tends to go down close to zero. It's not there yet. If you color code it and you isolate the 0 to 0.1 risk band, the 0 to 0.1 risk band shows the deep value in every cycle. We have not yet made it there this cycle. I anticipate that we will.
So Ben goes a little bit fast here, but what he said in the beginning of this clip right here is if you combine the social risk and the on-chain risk and then some other risk, basically all his models combined together into one, you get a summary risk, right? It's like taking everything, the best of everything into account and shows where we are. And then when you put that into deep value, which is this blue zones, so 2015, it was like that's the best time to buy. So it was like 2012, 2015, and last time was like in 2019. And then, we had a crash in 2020, but it apparently didn't make it to that blue zone. But 2019 was the time to really get in because you can't really predict the world's going to go, catch a cold. And the fact that we are currently not there yet. So it's like, man, being patient is fucking hard. Holy shit. Like, it feels like, I bought 2 drawdowns ago and lost my money again, right? And this guy's so patient, he still didn't buy. So hats off to him, man. Like, he's one of the guys, I think he's just very patient. And to be really honest, like, I think somebody like Ben is really good to follow for overall patience because not only is he a really good technical analyst, but he, as a personality, right? His personality is also patient, which is not always the case, right? Because one, you can control like how much time you spend and how smart you are into getting into learning a craft, which is like technical analysis. The other part is not in your control, like your personality. So I'll give you an example. If I was in his position, and I had a YouTube channel with 500,000, 700, what is he at? 700, almost 800,000 subscribers, right? Getting like his public videos, I think, get over 30, 40,000 views, even in a bear market of this kind. I would never turn off my ads, right? I like money. He turned off his ads for years. He's not taking any money from YouTube because why? And his reasoning is because people don't like ads. That's it. It's like nobody likes watching ads, so I want to have a good experience. It's like nobody likes watching ads for like 3 seconds that they could skip, which is why I'm going to leave hundreds and thousands of dollars on the table. Literally. So why is this important? is because I look at this as a personality, right? That's his personality, who he is. It just happens to be that he is such a rare set of characteristics combined with what profession he is, right? If you look at it, the game of technical analysis and trading in of itself is a very money heavy game, right? There's like in business, I could at least be like, look at all the reviews I have for my customers and the lives I'm changing, and they're getting a good product, and it's they're getting leads from the SEO, and it's making their business run better. There's a fulfillment side to it, right? So you can make the case a lot more than it's not just about the money, it's more about the in trading, it's not like it is you're literally trading against somebody else to get more money. It's like that is the only focus. Really? So without going into our longer rant, it's like how the hell do you get into a profession and get really good at trading if you don't love money like if you don't love money a lot? Normally that doesn't go in together. But here's a guy who is very good at trading, but he's not like really greedy, right? If I was in his position, I would be a lot more greedy. All right, so that's that, and hence why you see you see his level of patience, right? It works out. Like this guy is still, he said, almost 70% cash, 66% or 70%, like the last video I saw from him, which is like 2 days ago or something like that. And it makes you really like realize, like, man, like some people can just really be patient, where some other people it's just harder. And I think we can follow people like this to get an idea of how to do it better.
Right, and recognizing the macro trend. If you're the person that just buys every counter trend rally all the way down, where has it gotten you, right? Where has it gotten you this year? It's gotten you absolutely nowhere, okay? You have to recognize the macro trend. It can be hard sometimes to get some of the shorter term and medium term trends correct, but as long as you recognize that the general market is been heading down all year, and the altcoin market especially is still likely heading down for a little while, then it saves you a lot of pain. It really does. And I want to be honest, right? And I've said before, I think generational lows are coming across asset classes in the coming year. The only way you can take advantage of that is by being cash heavy, right? These altcoins are not going to give you power at the bottom of the bear market. They're not, right? What gives you power? It's the cash you stacked along the way. Now, with that said, it can be easy to get ahead of ourselves, and I recognize this. And if you look at every prior time where the S&P hit the top of this trend line, we went down and then we popped back up just to get everyone excited one more time, right? Because everyone looks at the chart and you wonder, okay, well, is it going to come back down? So my base case was always that we're just simply going to get rejected off the trend line, although we could see a fake out, was sort of my minority view. But my base case was that we just simply get rejected. My base case right now is that sometime, probably within the next maybe week, maybe 2 weeks at most, is my guess. But I would think that you're going to see a little pop at some point, right? Now, could it take a little while longer, right? Could it take a couple more days or something and then we pop back up? Yeah, it could. But at some point, I think you're going to see the S&P kind of pop back up a little bit. And then just to get everyone excited one more time, right? It loves to do this. It loves to pull.
It's getting longer than I thought, but at some point he was going to mention where he thinks it's finally headed to. I'm trying to wait for that point.
People back into the market, because a lot of people might sell and then it goes right back up and they're like, oh, maybe it happened like every single time. So try not to fall for that trap if it occurs. No guarantee that it occurs. You have to be aware that this trend has been going on for the entire year. And so if we do pop back up, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? I mean, we could go back up to 4K on the S&P 500 in prior move. Get a pop back up at some point within the next 1 to 2 weeks. I would still remain relatively cautious. I do think that the S&P is likely trending further down at some point. So whether we get that intermediate move up is somewhat irrelevant, although at some point I imagine we will. And then you'll probably see it, come back down. And I think you're going to see some type of another low in the first quarter of 2023. It could be
there. So, I mean, it just sucks, man. It's like, why do we do this to ourselves, right? Like, fuck. Makes you just like look at this shit. Um, and he's saying it, and some of the other traders, Pentoshi is not bullish. You know, some people are getting a little bullish, but Ben is not bullish. He's bearish. Pentoshi is neutral at best. And he even says that I expect a lot of people to lose a lot more money. No, not a lot more money than 2020, but he said I still expect people to lose a lot of money in 2023. And sometimes, again, like this is the thing, guys. Like I keep mentioning this because what happens when you're, like when you haven't lost money yet is like you either completely ignore these kind of statements or you just laugh at it. Like I feel so dumb. Some of these kind of things that I heard in 2021, at the top, Pentoshi was there shouting at it. Chamath said it. Bunch of people actually said it within the people I follow. But you just go on, forget about it, or even take like, oh man, shit, it just sucks. Oh, isn't it so? And then you keep holding, and then maybe if this pop up happened, like like let's say, right, time is a delay is a like a like a curse, right? 2 weeks go by, just 2 weeks. There's a little pop, and God forbid if crypto market also pops with it, oh, we're on again. Forgot everything what these guys said, right? They already laid out some of their statements for like months to come. We tend to forget, and then comes another new low, and there we go once again. So right now, I mean, if there's a pop, right, what I'm gonna do is actually like sell some more crypto. The market has sold it for me so far, but I would like to get some power back to myself. And if it does a pop up, especially the crypto market, I want to sell some stuff. Right? I still hold some ETH and a bunch of altcoins still, and I'm going to sell a little bit and get a little bit more cash heavy. And then if there's a bottom again like this in the S&P, I'm pretty sure crypto is going to follow. That's probably what takes us to that 10 to 12K for Bitcoin. And then there probably a better time to DCA, because this guy's been waiting for this time for a year flat without any, like almost zero like what do you call, like eagerness to get in, right? And only recently, I think like 2 weeks ago, he said like, okay guys, finally, like literally when January, we're pretty much at the end of the year, our first video he made in January, he was like, this is starting to get in the time when you have to pay attention. So that's what we have to really just keep in mind.
I'm going to, then unfortunately I will have to let you know that I'm likely going to let you down. But I just want you to recognize what the indicators are suggesting across the cryptoverse, the macroeconomic, or the macroverse, the real estate verse, and the equity verse, and try to see kind of where everything is. My thesis here in 2022 is that stacking cash is king, right? Cash is king, no question about it. That's the main thing for 2022. I think cash will still be king for part of 2023, but at some point it's going to sort of transition into not being king, and that risk assets will become attractive once again. And then in 2024, I think it'll mostly just be risk assets are attractive and cash is no longer king really at all. And then 2025 is ideally, and maybe even early 2026 is ideally the time to take profits. That's my general thinking right now.
We got some ways to go, guys.
It just happens to be that the majority of the people in crypto, let's call it before, as a ratio of people, were Wall Street type people, right? And so naturally they were more thinking in terms of liquidity and trade volumes. And now basically it's people who are playing games and so on. And then if you also look at the amount of money that's being invested by VCs that have never entered the world of blockchain before. I mean, GameFi or metaverse as a category, particularly open metaverse, I think, just this quarter alone has received like $1.8 billion in funding. I mean, is it a winter? Well, it's all relative, right? I mean, sure, if you compare it to 6 months ago or 9 months ago, but if you compare it, generally speaking, to like if you're making.
So this guy's always bullish. I mean, he's just, I mean, so would I if I made $1 billion from crypto. Like, he, if you look at his investments in the last bear market, this guy got majority share in Axie Infinity, bunch of other stuff. I mean, he's the owner of Sandbox. Like, he was one of the winners, right? Like he was one of the winners, like it's like SBF, and then he's one of the guys that came into mind who really capitalized heavily, went into crypto, um, um, and he's been buying ever since. Like I was following it for some time, with the tools and Crunchbase and whatnot. Like, oh, okay, what is he buying? After a while, you just lose, like, because he made over 300 investments in the crypto space, and over like half of them are in crypto games. So if there's somebody who's gonna nail the big crypto game that's coming, it's a high chance that it's gonna be Yatsui. Um, but then again, it's like they're in the space, they build games, their team is all about that, and they're in a top five in the best in the world who does this and has the best team who does this, and they live, breathe, and do this for a living. And then they have billions of dollars and they take hundreds of bets. It's like, okay, then like what, like who else, then who, like, if they don't get it, then who else is going to get it? But the point is, to us, we can't go into 150 things, right? So I just take his directional, what he's paying attention in, as a directional note, right? As like a positive point towards that direction, whether it be a particular type of game or what he's looking at, like that. But I'm no longer like, Yatsui bought this, so shall I. I'm not adding points in that direction.
Swath in our portfolio, we have over 380 companies we've invested in. Almost a third of them are basically sort of in the game space, and the quality.
I'm just quoting what I remember, right? We have over 300 investments, over a third of them. Okay, I thought it was a half, but a third of them is in the game. Still, it's 100. It's 100 games they invested in.
On TinyTap and other platforms, and this is a way where teachers have currently been making, let's call it a side income of maybe a couple $1,000s a year, but with what you can now do with digital property, which is sort of a big part of our mission, is you can now create through the effective property rights capital formation. That actually, to me, is a real exciting model where we're not just, this will affect not just teachers obviously, but I think why it's exciting for teachers is because they're probably one of the largest, if not the largest, content creators in the world, but they don't have an avenue, an outlet in which their content can be fairly valued. If you can get that kind of money into it, actually, I think that would be an incredible outcome for society. So
why this part, I took this part, it's interesting because, like, when you keep watching and keep like a tab on the space, right? You look at Twitter, you look at videos, you look at smart people in the past who have crushed it and where they're going, where they're thinking, you start to like kind of see certain patterns, right? So like Olaf talks about this, a bunch of other people talk about this, Kyle Samani even talks about this, about like, current models in the world, in the Web 2 world that is already working, or current places in the world that there's a underserved opportunity, right? It's like the way that it currently works, it's already happening. It's proven that the demand is there or the activities is going on, but there's no way to monetize it, right? That's what he's talking about. So teachers is one of the largest content creators as a class, which is interesting, right? Which is so true. As a teacher, your job is to create curriculums, right? What am I going to teach the kids? And then each day is a presentation, right? It's kind of like hard. Like if you think about it, like how hard is it to be a teacher and how much money you make? It's like kind of shitty, right? Like you're creating stuff all the time. Presentations, how to like make a kid understand this. If certain kids don't understand it, how to make say it in a different way. As long as you're like a good teacher. I don't know how it is in public schools here, probably shitty, but like generally speaking, a decent teacher is like, that's their job, right? But they don't get paid for that stuff. The most paid teachers right now are YouTubers, right? Teachers who put this stuff on YouTube. Like same as doctors, the most highest paid doctors right now are probably the guys on YouTube, like Mark Hyman. They have like 3-5 million people that subscribers, and apparently one of the marketing webinars that I went into, I think like a couple of months ago, was like comparing like how much weight they moved. It's like a term that they use for e-commerce, like if you're an entrepreneur who's a pretty beginner, they could make like this many millions, and then like that doctor apparently blew those numbers out of the water, and all he did is just mention it to his YouTube audience because they like and trust him already. He doesn't even have to understand sales properly to be able to distribute that volume of any product, anything. This is the whatever vitamin C I came out and it's good because of whatever, and it's Mark Hyman's vitamin C. People will buy that shit, right? I'm digressing a little bit, but the point I'm trying to make is like, it's like currently there's people who are like, they create a lot of content, or they're already doing the activity, right? The people who, most of them can't monetize that, are the people who are the top 0.001% monetizing it is through like a medium like YouTube, which apparently is still like on training wheels compared to what crypto is going to bring. Even Balaji talks about this. Like, he's saying that anybody who has followers is going to be far, far more, each follower is going to be far more valuable in the next decade when, these things in crypto really takes off, because apparently, every follower you can get like a 10x multiple on how much money you can make, blah, blah, blah. Good for anybody who's really getting into like, building a personal brand, YouTube channel, stuff like that. But the point is, this is stuff that we can keep an eye on, right? If we see there's some companies, like let's say, for example, we keep going. I'm doing these videos, I'm keeping a tab, and we come across a portfolio company, one of the VCs that we follow are now creating a, invested in a coin, or, a project that's basically going to be taking teachers and helping them monetize the content that they create, and anybody who gets value through their, through their content is going to be an NFT that they can buy, and that will give them access to all their content, whatever, right? What kind of model they put together. That could be already something that we look at. Then we just have to find out if the people who are doing that project has a good background, they're a good entrepreneur, blah, 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 can they execute, and it'll be a high chance of working out, because we have all this background understanding that very smart people have been already talking about an opportunity like that. So hope you follow the progress in that direction in that way.
I've looked at is been like, look, dApps are just uninvestable at this point, because you could just buy the layer one, and history tells us that the layer one's going to return more than the dApps that are built on the ecosystem, and they're the biggest and most liquid investments that you can make. So I don't know. I'm kind of looking at all of these things and being like, I think there's a decent chance that Solana makes it here, and it's like, okay, if you put some money in and you lose it, it could go to zero. But like, so many people are so bearish on Solana at this point. It's kind of like, what do you make if you're right, and what do you make if you're wrong? And I think if you, I don't know, that's sort of the way.
So he covered 2 points that are really, important. So the first one is pretty age old, but I'll mention it. It's like, what's the point of going into dApps and trying to invest in a particular application built on a chain when you could just invest in the chain itself, right? I mentioned this like several times in these videos, is that I no longer want to be so far ahead in the risk curve, right? I'm not trying to find that particular coin, like that's like the small project built on Near that will do 100x, right? If I find very smart people talking about multiple projects that are built on Near, I'll just build more conviction on Near, right? And I can allocate more percentage of my capital, right? More percentage of my net worth into Near, and I'll feel more good about that compared to running around and splitting the money I could just put on Near and just splitting it between all these other projects. And then if one of them takes off, or more likely, if one of the projects that I put into, or none of them really take off that well, how stupid would you feel looking back that you could have just put it on Near, right? That's another way to look at stuff, right? If you don't want to be like wrong for the next cycle, just put yourself ahead of that cycle and just think, what's the, would I be upset with myself if I found out it went this other direction? If yes, you'd be more upset, and you can't live with yourself with that outcome, then just go with the safer one. It's going to convince you to not, it's okay to not get the, whatever, couple 100,000x that people sometimes are be talking about, and it's okay to get the 20x 50x, right? It's just having a higher chance to do so. My goal is to get a 5 to 10x, honestly. My goal for the next cycle, for the entire portfolio though, is like 5 to 10x. I'm happy with the 5x, and you could potentially do that even with just Bitcoin, to be honest. Like, I'm not buying Bitcoin anymore, but if Bitcoin, let's say, let's put like what you'd have to do to get a 5x. If you were to buy Bitcoin right now, right, which is like 15K, if it goes to like, if next cycle, if it goes to 100K, you're pretty much there. The reason why we still, like, why I'm not doing that, well, actually, this is not the video for that. But in short, if my goal is to get a 5 to 10x, the idea is how much on average I can put on the more safety ones. Let's say like 50% minimum on ETH itself, right? And then the rest of it can be like basically blocked out depending on it's the layer ones and a few other projects. But I'm no longer going to go where I put a big percentage in any kind of dApps or whatever, right? Even in the last video I said I'm not even thinking about going into crypto games anymore. Only if 2 or 3 VCs, right, invest in the same crypto game that we're following. And it only happened once so far. It's very rare, right? Like our list of VCs is not that long. It's like 10 people. So it's like 3 people out of that 10 have to invest in the same project. If that happens, like, yes, okay, then I'll buy that game. Then it's just too much bullishness by very smart people for me to not take attention to it. But other than that, I'm not going to try to follow Yetsui here. It's mainly looking like ETH heavy, layer ones, a little bit of infrastructure like Arweave and stuff like that. And then let's see what else, if there's any other narrative that comes in that takes the hold, might get into that, because every cycle there's a new narrative. So going by that understanding, 2023 should be the year where new narratives are born, really, or should be found, because you don't really know the narrative that clearly until the bull market comes. But we will know, because it's not that hard to know the narratives, at least. Like, you can just go to the main VCs and see what they're investing in and see if we'll find it. If we do find a clear one, then we'll try to basically capitalize the category leader in that narrative. But long story short, that's my goal, and that's how I'm going about it. And this guy just kind of like was touching on this point. And then he also mentioned about Solana, which, was going to be my biggest holding until the whole SBF thing blew up. And since then, I even didn't get into it in 9K. I bought 1,000 Solana with 9,000 at $9 something, which, let me see if I can pull it up. So I was making some small trades, and you can see Solana, I bought 900 Solana for 9K. And then as soon as it popped up a little bit, I sold it at 11K. I don't know how much this is. It's like $1,600. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done. Right. And I'm not trying to trade this market like actively. It's just like if I see multiple people as I'm scrolling through Twitter that line up, then I'm like, all right, fine. I'll go a little bit in, right? 5 to 10K. But I'm not going to go heavy. I'm not going to put whatever, like, 100K or anything like that until Benjamin, Pentoshi, these kind of guys get bullish. All right, where was I?
But that's kind of what the narrative was back then, because it really wasn't like there was any developer activity or like tech activity. It was all just sort of money crypto. So I think that it's really different this time around. Like, the developer activity and the tech side of the crypto industry is working, and like there are games that are growing hundreds of thousands of new users every single week. Like there's still a lot of activity in the DeFi applications that are working. And one of my other kind of broad predictions is that next year we see the flippening, but not in the way that everybody talks about it. I think next year we see the flippening in terms of the amount of actions or activities. So like volume, trades, traders that are interacting with DeFi over CeFi. And I think that will be one of the indications.
So this is something that's I heard it in Twitter as well from one of the people, is DeFi over CeFi. And last week's video, I said that Uni is showing signs to become one of the top holdings, because it sounds like Uni is really well positioned to go for this, become a category leader in the DeFi space. And very smart people recently invested in another round in Uni. And if this narrative gets strong, which I think it will, I mean, like, the space has to learn to some extent. Like, how stupid it would be if next cycle, again, millions of people lose billions of dollars from exchanges again, centralized exchanges. That would be that. It seems like that's not the case. Like, would you, like, we were through this bear market? Do you, like, would you put all your money in a central exchange again? Exactly. So like, then it's like in DeFi, right? Now that we know it's a strong narrative and it's only to be grown, then what is likely to be the category winner? It's going to be very tempting to go to GMX and these like small coins and stuff like that, which could work. You know, there's people also pretty smart who are bullish on that, and we might make some plays there. But I'm like, guys, I'm just like, I just want to try my best at get the category winner. And the ones that have stuck around the longest, went through multiple cycles if possible, and have a better team, you know, all those kind of things, right? And just really like stick to it. Uni is much bigger market cap, but I don't mind, right? If DeFi was to take off the way we think it should, right? It's going to be better than CeFi. I mean, it's going to be much bigger than CeFi, central exchanges, and crypto grows to that extent, then whatever market cap it is at right now, what I think Uni said like $5-6 shouldn't be anything, right? Like 50x from here is not really that big of a thing. Like if you compare like what the global capital, like, you know, global money flow is in, you know, including everything, and if crypto was going to eat that, and DeFi is a big part of that crypto bubble, and Uni is a big part of that DeFi bubble, if you follow the layers there.
Utility driven or like application specific NFTs that are the things that drive NFT volume in 2023. I lean more in the latter camp, where I think, you know, game assets or assets that kind of provision access to things and have fundamental utility versus what we've seen historically of PFPs is going to be the driving force of NFT volume going forward. And a lot of that, to your point, you know, aggregates and kind of gravitates towards application specific, vertical specific marketplaces. So I totally agree with OpenSea, you know, kind of getting disintermediated.
I got one.
Yeah, that's already happening. I think that's nothing new, to be honest. I think it's been going on for some time. It's already well on its way.
Thousands of new users every single week. Like there's still a lot of activity in the DeFi applications that are working. And one of my other kind of broad predictions is that next year we see the flipping, but not in the way that everybody talks about it. I think next year we
two videos at the same time. My bad, guys.
Can I actually? I'd like to jump in here because everything that we've talked about so far actually kind of forms this this first prediction that I laid out. And so I'd like to maybe just like transition now from talking to 2022 about 2023, because I know we have all put thought into this. I want to make sure we've got time to get through everyone's. So I know this is going to sound like hopium, but I backed it up. I actually put some slides together. I think that the bottom is in for crypto, but I don't think it's in for equities. So.
Okay, so that's a bold prediction. I think the bottom is in for crypto, but it's not in for equities. Okay. So we know historically that Bitcoin does bottom before the stock market. It's a more, how do you say, you know, there's no circuit breakers. It's a wild animal, right? It's a bit more in tune with whatever's going on. It runs on weekends. There's no stop, whatnot. So that's not surprising. But it's not in for equities. That lines up with Ben. He's also feels like S&P is going to put a new low. But then again, Ben also thinks cryptos has a pretty good chance to put a new low as well. And so does Pentoshi and a few other traders, right? So it's like, okay, we take what this guy's saying. I mean, like, this is the thing, you know, you have to look at his track record. I don't have even his profile and track record. You know, in like, I have never like done the spreadsheet on everything he said. I'm just watching him because Empire says good stuff. So, you know, we take it with a grain of salt, but it's interesting nevertheless.
So I don't know if Santi, it looked like Santi had a thought on that. No? All right, cool. Well, first off, I really agree with your prediction, Mike. I think that one, it's just interesting to point out how it leads the market and leads equities. I think that's a great point. And the second thing is, I really do think we'll see these, like, I don't know, like the price action whether it's like Bitcoin going from 15 to 30 or something, and no one will blink an eye, and no one will even really talk about the price. And these like I think big bear market runs will end up happening as well. Ultimately, it kind of goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down.
So like several people are talking about this, guys, and this is the funny part. Watch us still miss it. Watch people still miss it. Meaning, watch enough time goes into 2023, March comes, and then the rally starts slowly and starts to heat up. Then you start hearing everybody like, oh, this is bullish. Oh, this is it. Okay, the markets are turning and stuff. And this is how, like, people don't fall for it because they're, because for no reason. You fall for it again because it's very convincing at that time, right? The emotions we feel right now is going to be very different than what we feel when that rally comes. But multiple people are laying it out over and over again that there's likely to be bear market rallies this year that's going to get sold again, and we're likely to retest the bottom. If there's a bottom, it's a high chance we're going to retest it before any kind of sustained move. So the point is, everything being said is we just got ways to go, and it just sucks that is the message after everything. But we're still here, and if you go away for too long and completely give up, then you miss the entire thing. Then you suffered all this time for no reason. We should have just left in like end of 2021 or whenever you started losing money or whatever, right? Since we're already here, this is the hard part, right? This is why it's hard. You can't leave, but you can't really stay, because if you stay, you want to get in, but like you have to stay on it, and you can't get in, and you can't leave, right? It's like if you can, what if like you could have sex, but you can't finish? But you can't not have sex at all, because then it's like, fuck. I'm trying to make an analogy. I don't think it's working. But this is a summary of like all the bullshit we're going through right now.
Really sorry for
It's the same tone. It's like,
God,
how's it
how are
going?
you doing?
How you doing? Yeah. It's
I'm like, guys.
Everyone talks to you like a,
you know what?
A beloved
Now
family member just passed away. It's like,
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
All right, I'm taking us into the next. Mike, I want to get your next.
I've got a prediction because it actually dovetails with DeFi and what you were saying about exchanges. So I've got one that I think is like slightly more obvious, and then I want to just take a stab at something. So I think MEV is going to emerge as the dominant business model for DeFi. And I think that's ultimately going to lead to exchanges vertically integrate and extracting profits from MEV. So basically, if you look back at like the internet, all these different things that could have worked, right? There are three dominant business models that ended up emerging. There was advertising vis-a-vis Google, Facebook. There was SaaS, which you get basically from like the Microsoft package and Salesforce. And there were platforms like Airbnb and Uber. E-commerce is kind of a distant fourth. A lot of folks struggled to ultimately make that work. I think something similar is going to happen in crypto. And I think when you look at DeFi protocols in general, there's something that I think people miss, especially around like the Uniswap debate, is around like the fee switch, is that's ultimately never how those protocols are going to monetize. There's a very strong stated fee preference in TradFi to have more variable fees, like the AUM percentage that you pay to an RIA or wealth manager, and fees that are hidden, like payment for order flow as opposed to upfront trading, right? So Robinhood kind of put the final nail in that coffin, and then on Fidelity, you can trade whatever. That doesn't mean that value isn't being extracted from financial markets and trading. It just means they're doing it in a more hidden way. That the same thing is going to happen basically for MEV, right? So instead of an upfront fee that you're going to have to pay to trade on Uniswap, ultimately what Uniswap is going to do, and this I'm borrowing a little bit here from Daniel Elitzer's like Unichain sort of idea, is that Uniswap is going to say, hey, look, we've got all these users that come to our platform. Ultimately, we got to find a way to monetize. We're not going to charge a fee.
So long story short, I touched on this last week as well, that he's like the second person who put this together, and is saying this is basically, distribution is important, and it's one of the more valuable things in, really anything, right? So when Uniswap, for example, has all these users that are already trusting it, using it, and they know that there's so many millions of dollars that the chains out there that are getting, this volume, they could just have one made for themselves, and they could get part of that market share just by doing that move. And his prediction is this is going to be more of a thing. So we'll see how that pans out.
It's not good for the people who process the claims, which, by the way, best performing stock in the S&P over the last decade, United Healthcare, a company that should not even exist. All they are is a claims processor. There's nothing to do with health or care. They basically pay big money to the government to get a license to steal from all the participants that get their insurance that way. That doesn't need to be the path for crypto. But you need, I love your point about it needs to be off chain. If you have a separate
correlation.
entity.
Composability is your worst enemy when you're trying to insure stuff. Now, claims processing is just purely how the smart contract behaves. It's quite predictable. There's no ambiguity in terms of saying, oh, you know what, you didn't read the clause. Like if there was a hack, it's very clearly the smart contract. We all understand this technically, practically, two
Tesla shares are simply a speculative vehicle, right? The company, you can't get their value.
Since 2008, the market has not traded rationally. Let's just accept that. People try to make mental gymnastics of discounted cash flow, terminal value. It's all bullshit. You're the gold seeking to something that it's like people have thrown away.
That's actually what a stock is, but okay. Other than the fact that that's what an equity actually is,
okay.
I'll go with your definition of bullshit.
These huge P ratios of just way out of whack, and Amazon has never turned a profit other than AWS, but most of their business lines have never. The unit economics are terrible. You just cannot justify in your right mind from a fundamental standpoint how things trade. The only thing I want to say is I think we probably bottom at 700 to 800, even though you might have DCG. Tether might be a really big blow.
He's talking about $700 or $800 billion in market cap for crypto.
See these big wallet wars, not in 2023, but starting to emerge in 2023, but really into 2024. And you have folks like Phantom, Argent, Brave. The big players are launching their own wallets. Ledger launched a wallet, Coinbase launched a wallet. I bet Uniswap launches a wallet.
We talked about this as well last week. So this is, you see, some of the stuff really overlaps, guys. I'll go find this one specifically. So let's see, who was it last week that we read? It was a blog from one of these people that says something with wallet wars, that it's going to be a bigger thing. And this guy's saying pretty much exactly the same shit. And they're completely different people, different funds. Was it Richard Chen? Let me see. I think this is it. Shower thoughts. Vertical NFT marketplaces. Okay, so this was his 3. Just let me read, bro. 3 okay, and then here's for 2023. He's predicting ENS is gonna go crazy. MEV business model for apps and wallets. Right there. So I mean, it kind of overlaps multiple. The 2 video clips ago, we talked about the MEV model, right? Uniswap, it's a chain that is going to, basically start to take more market share by building and getting a piece of the MEV overall miner extractable value. And then he's talking about it for apps and wallets, right? So it's, though they were talking about projects like Uniswap can capitalize on MEV more because they have the distribution, and they're saying wallets like MetaMask can go into the MEV more because they also have the distribution, right? There's so many MetaMask users. So what is the common denominator? Apps and wallets can go into MEV, can get into this market. So the category, if this becomes a trend, we see more information that this is starting to take off, then the idea would be, which project, is it Uniswap, is it MetaMask, is it another wallet that is for some reason, so that's when we find out the information more, some reason is a better competitor to do this and capitalize more because of XYZ reason. And then if that makes sense and we get good points, then we can look to invest more into that project, right? So you see, it's not, you can find patterns, and patterns make me at least get excited. Where were we? I think we're at the last video, right?
And NFTs, I think the wallet experience will just feel like your digital home instead of the place you hold your ETH.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's your digital identity. Completely
Yeah.
agree, and it's everything.
Which is like where Solana's kind of there, right? Phantom, I think, has a little bit better overall, was able to do that a little bit better than MetaMask. MetaMask feels like it's like only when I'm making transactions. Phantom, I would sometimes at least go when I'm not making a transaction just to see what's in there again. Like I'm like forgetting and stuff. But you know, obviously long ways to go and whatnot. Anyways, guys, it looks like it's really hard to make this video short, right? If you want to had any kind of commentary and go through some stuff, it takes a while. But hope you enjoyed. And what I would like you guys to comment for once, if you could help me out here, is like the time length, right? Like, do any of you watch this whole thing at once? Is it annoying? Is it boring? Do you, and if so, then what kind of time length is better? Don't say like 5 minutes or 7 minutes, but like say something like, is it like 15 or 30 or 45 or 1 hour? If you could leave that comment, that'd be great. Thanks.